Morning. So let's go back to the ladder on page 44. Climb to the top of the ladder now. Hold on tight. So we pretty much got to number 9, the 9th level, so to speak. Choosing Hashem over the 70 angels, that's number 7. Then choosing Hashem even over the angels of Kedusha, that's number 8. And then choosing Hashem even over the Spheros, which is pure godly light and pure transparent godly light. It's connected to Hashem, it's one with Hashem. Even that, but it's still Hashem manifesting through the Spheros. And he says, Ana Noseh Malka, I want the king himself in his purest form. We have still one more to go. That's the highest level, which we'll soon see. Okay, so now we're going back to page 247, Ois Tes. We're going to start with Ois Tes. Okay. Yes. This is an extra copy. Let's watch the, it's covered, the staples. So if you look at this ladder that we showed, all the way in the bottom is the lowest level, where we're saying there are people that actually choose Avodah Zarah instead of choosing Hashem. That's the lowest level. The highest level is that I'm choosing Hashem over the choice of choosing even to benefit and experience the light of spheres in the highest spiritual level. Now the Rebbe is going to say something even more shocking. Yesh Leimer. Whenever it says Yesh Leimer, it means it could be said. Whenever the Rebbe uses that language, it clearly means that this is something which is new. If there would be a source for it, the Rebbe wouldn't say it could be said. It's said in a previous Maimer, one of the previous Rebbes. So when the Rebbe says something sort of on his own, then the Rebbe uses the term V'yesh Leimer, that we can possibly say. It doesn't say it with absolute certainty, but of course, as far as we're concerned, it's absolutely certain. There's a story with the previous Rebbe, that the Rebbe Rashab once shared with him a certain thought in Chassidus. Shortly after that, he went to visit his father-in-law. His name was Rav Ram Schneerson. And his father-in-law said to him, okay, turn on the faucet and let me hear Chassidus. He knew that his son-in-law, the Frierdiker Rebbe, was not the Rebbe at the time, but he knew that if he opens his mouth, Chassidus will come pouring out. And that's what he did. When he came home, gave over his father regards and a report that he told him about their conversation. And he told him that he repeated this thought that the Rebbe Rashab shared with him. So Rebbe Rashab said, why did you do that? I told you that I'm saying this not with absolute certainty. I said it could be that that's what it means. So he answered him, what you say could be, as far as I'm concerned, it's absolute certainty. So basically, the same is with us, even though the Rebbe says v'yesh leimar, but once the Rebbe says v'yesh leimar, which means there's a possibility to explain it that way, which the Rebbe says in his humility, as far as we're concerned, this is part of Torah. The Pirush Ba'nonos of Malka, this interpretation, I choose the king, which is the highest level, She'ein Reitze Ba'dargis Digdusha Shalamayla, that the smart person says, I have no desire, even the whole highest level, I want you yourself, Atzmus. That's the highest interpretation. Then the lowest interpretation, Hapirush Danos of Malka Kipshuta, means that he chooses to serve Hashem and not to worship idols. Shayochem Zelazeh. The Rebbe says they're actually connected one to the other. How's that connected one to the other? So if we analyze and understand in depth this level of love, that not Gan Eden, not Olam Haba, not the spheres, not those levels of the highest, just you, we get to the core of it, we'll see how it's related to even the lowest levels. This can be understood according to the well-known explanation about this love, Mili Bashamayim, which we said is the highest level of love. That this is a person, a tzaddik, that says, I am not even desiring the light of Hashem that's in Gan Eden, but what am I wanting? Atzmos Eres of the essence of Hashem. Page 248. Even though if the Neshama would be in Gan Eden, he would remain an entity as he is, and he would be experiencing pleasure of enjoying the pleasure of godliness. But if a person would be able to see, if it would be revealed to him the essence of Hashem, he'd be totally nullified. So why would a person even want to say that I want to become one with the essence of Hashem? Nevertheless, the reason is what we have in Gan Eden is the radiance of Hashem, the manifestation of Hashem, the the light, which is Be'ein Areich, which is incomparable to Atzmos Ein Sof. Like I said yesterday, the books that the person writes and all the wisdom that he shares in the books and all the feelings and thoughts that he shares in the books, they're amazing. It gives us some understanding of the person and his personality, but it's not the essence of the person. It's only a manifestation of the person. So therefore, he chooses the Iker V'Lei Tofar. This is also a very deep, complicated concept. So we'll just try whatever we can understand of it, even a little bit, will help us. And basically what he's saying is, if a person would be exposed to the essence of Hashem, they're out of the picture. They would be lost. They would just be sort of, they become one with Hashem, but they, in their own mind and consciousness, won't be able to exist in such presence. On the other hand, what they're going to have is the essence of Hashem. A person who experiences the light of Gan Eden has the pleasure, that's true. But on the other hand, even though being in the lower level allows him to maintain his own identity, he'd rather not hold on to that and connect to the essence. I know what I just finished saying is a little bit abstract and probably confusing. So let's go back to what we spoke about yesterday, because that's where you see this more clearly, we can relate to it. And that is the difference between tzaddikim that lost their lives because they were expired out of love for Hashem, and a tzaddik that didn't do that. Let me see if we could bring that in. We had something similar to this in the beginning, one of the Maimarim in the beginning of the year, so maybe it'll be easier to follow. Let me just think of how I can explain this. Okay, let's look at it this way. So if you have a person that is overcome with love for Hashem, and I know Hashem wants us to be in a neshama, in a guf, in the physical world, but what we experience here in this physical world is godliness concealed. You can't compare it to what the neshama experiences in Gan Eden. Let's go over what it says in Pirkei Avos, and it's explained in Tanya. In Pirkei Avos, there's a Mishnah that, if you look at the Mishnah, the first half and the second half seem to be like a direct contradiction, and yet it's one Mishnah. What does it say? It says that one moment of Torah, tshuva, and good deeds in this world is more than an entire lifetime in the world to come. Which means if a neshama would experience spiritual pleasure in that world for an entire lifetime, one moment of Torah mitzvahs down here is greater than all that. And the second half of the Mishnah says the exact opposite. That one moment of pleasure in that world is greater than an entire lifetime of pleasure in this world. So how does the Alter Rebbe explain it? How can they both be true? So the answer is, it depends in reference to what we're talking about. In terms of experiencing consciously a feeling of pleasure by connecting to Hashem, that pleasure, that sense of enjoyment and pleasure that I understand godliness and I'm experiencing godliness, whatever the neshama experiences up there will always be infinitely greater than what the neshama could experience down here. Because here the neshama is in a physical body. The world itself conceals godliness. So even someone who experiences and feels godliness in this world, it's still nothing to compare what the neshama will experience there without the body. It's unlimited. It's like the story with Reb Zusha, the famous story that he once asked Hashem to be given a gift, that he should experience the feeling of fear of one of the smallest angels. And Hashem gave him the gift. And right after that, he found himself praying desperately for Hashem to take it back. Because he was so overwhelmed with fear, he was under the beds and climbing the walls, and he just couldn't find a place for himself. Why is that? He was such a tzaddik, and he surely had fear of Hashem. He was one of the greatest tzaddikim of that generation. But you can't compare that to an angel, which is purely spiritual. And therefore, what they experience spiritually is always going to be way, way more intense than what a person could experience being in a neshama, in a guf, in a physical world. Another example that brings out the distance between what's down here and what's up there is the famous words of Avraham Avinu, where he said, "Anechi ofer va'efer," I am earth and ashes. Every time I talk about this, I remember I met a family whose name was Erdonest. So he told me, you know where we got our name from? Because years ago, people had to choose their own last names. He says, my great-great-grandfather said, okay, I need to choose a name. What's a Yid? Like Avraham Avinu said, Ofer Be'efer, earth and ashes. So he called himself in Yiddish, Erd und Ash. And ended up evolving into Erdonest. But really, the source of it is Erd and Ash, earth and ash. So the Alter Rebbe says something very beautiful about these words that I'm like earth and ashes. What does it mean, like ashes? Avraham Avinu's neshama came from Chesed of Atzilus. So his neshama initially was in Atzilus, and we're in Atzilus Chesed. That's why down here he was pure Chesed. He was the highest, the epitome of Chesed, of kindness, of love. And to the extent that it says in one of the books of Kabbalah, Sefer HaBahir, that the attribute of Chesed of Hashem said, since Avraham Avinu came down to this world, I didn't have to do my job, I was on vacation. Because Avraham Avinu is doing the Chesed for me, he's substituting me. So I would think that Avraham Avinu, he comes from such a high level, and down here he's so much connected to his source. So down here he's almost like his original source. So Avraham Avinu said, no, I'm like ashes. What does that mean? If you take a table and you burn it, and you have ashes, the ashes is not something new. It's not a new creation. It's the original table, but it's deformed a little bit. Through the fire, it looks a little bit different. How would you compare the ashes to the original table that was standing before? Can't even compare. Avraham Avinu said, if you want to compare me down here to my source up there, it's like ashes compared to the original object before it was burned. So in other words, the neshama down here, no matter how much it learns and davens and experiences godliness, it's incomparable to what it can experience up there when it's so much less limited. Hashem's light is unlimited. The neshama over there is unlimited. So it experiences things at a whole different level. And the neshama gets the greatest feeling of pleasure. When the neshama is down here, it's like the example we gave yesterday, the person who runs to see their father. What do they see? A physical body, a nose, eyes, which means down here, what we see is tefillin, mezuzah, we see lulav and esrei, and true, we're embracing the essence of Hashem, but what we're experiencing is nothing compared to what the neshama experiences up there. And that's why it says that one moment in that world, experiencing pleasure there, is infinitely greater than an entire lifetime of pleasure down here, because down here it's all limited, up there it's unlimited. On the other hand, why does it say that one moment here is more than everything up there? What I'm connecting to down here is infinitely greater than what I'm connecting up there, because down here I get the essence of Hashem, up there I have the light of Hashem. What? Well, that's why there's both, and both things are true. It says that a person comes into this world against their will because they doesn't want to let go of all that light, but they leave this world against their will because they don't want to let go of the essence. So both feelings are there. So in a certain sense, when a person makes a decision, like those tzaddikim, to give up on their possibility of having a journey in a spiritual world and sort of to stay down here, by doing that, they're giving up their opportunity to have all that pleasure and enjoy. They're sort of totally giving up their will for Hashem's will. From their end, they would want nothing more than being basking in this pleasure of godliness, in this pleasure of spirituality. And that would give them the greatest feeling of pleasure. But instead, they're giving all that up to do something physical, a physical act of putting a penny into a pushka, a physical act of shaking a lulav and esrei, or putting on tefillin. So in a sense, by doing that, they're losing their identity as what they would want and what they would enjoy for Hashem. Up there, they're maintaining their identity because they are experiencing joy and pleasure by ascending godliness. Now, to take an example of something more that we can relate to is think of a person that loves learning Torah, loves doing mitzvahs, is on fire, passionate about every detail of the Torah mitzvahs, and he gets a phone call from the Rebbe's office. The Rebbe would like you to go to Shlichus to Timbuktu, some place out in the world. There's no minyan, there's no environment. You're going to be talking and interacting with people that don't necessarily believe in Hashem. They don't believe in keeping kosher. They don't believe in keeping Shabbos. And that's what you'll be doing. How could you compare that to what he was doing before, learning and davening and just, again, basking in the pleasure of godliness and spirituality? So to a certain extent, if he would go out there and do that, he's giving up his identity, because this is what I really enjoy, what I really love, what I really have pleasure from is immersing myself in his spiritual world. I'm giving all that up. Why? Because that's what Hashem wants. The other way, I'm not connecting to the essence of Hashem, but I'm able to hold on to what gives me pleasure and hold on to me as my spiritual identity. I hold on to that and I'm enjoying that. I'm experiencing that. So what would be the right thing to do? To go off of shlichus, never have any more time to learn and to really immerse myself in learning and davening and all these things in a proper way. I'm just busy all day proving to people that God does exist and proving to people things that are on their level, which is very far from my level. Or I should choose to stay where I am, learn and daven, and just climb higher and higher the ladder of spirituality. What? Go out there. That's why, because that's really the essence of what Hashem wants. But again, by going out there, I'm giving up what my true identity is, which is pleasure of Hashem. It also sounds like a contradiction. Both are Hashem. But this one allows me to be me and enjoy that pleasure of Hashem. The other one, in a sense, I'm doing what Hashem wants, but I'm giving up myself.
But it's more like, say, if you have the sign and then you have the race, and if you're basking in the race, you're like, okay, enjoying. The source is there, but you're just like enjoying it from a distance. If you go out there and want to shop on, it's like you're actually.
Right, so that's the advantage being done here. Here you're embracing and connecting to the essence of Hashem. But by connecting the essence of Hashem, I, in a sense, have to give up that identity of mine, which is all about understanding and pleasure and basking in the pleasure of Hashem, where I feel all that. In this case, it's almost I lose all that, but I'm doing what Hashem wants. I'm giving up who I really am and what I really want for myself, in a sense, for what Hashem wants. For some people, it means giving away money. For some people, it means giving up a career because it's not kosher according to Torah. For some people, it means giving up a position of power because they have to do what Hashem wants and it doesn't fit in where they have a position of power. For these people, it means giving up all the spiritual pleasure, which is really giving up who they really are. The first mimer, the Basel Lagani, what does the Rebbe tell the story of the Alter Rebbe? That it was Yom Kippur. The Alter Rebbe is davening. Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the year. So everybody on Yom Kippur is in a higher place. Imagine the Alter Rebbe, who knows what Yom Kippur is all about, feels what Yom Kippur is all about. The Alter Rebbe, who is immersed in this highest level of love for Hashem, instead of Yom Kippuring, he takes off his talus, goes out, chops wood on Yom Kippur, makes a fire on Yom Kippur, cooks soup on Yom Kippur. Why? To give a person food that she should be able to survive. So by doing that, you're giving up all those things which are your pleasure, so to speak. But on the other hand, this is Hashem's pleasure. She's one of Hashem's children, and this is what Hashem wants you to do now. So when you connect to the essence, you're giving up yourself. When you connect to the light, I'm able to enjoy that. I'm not giving up myself, but I'm only having light. If we get through to this, understand it clearly, we can go to the next line. See you next month. Yeah. Okay. I'm saying when you connect to the light of Hashem, which would mean somebody who is engaging in learning and davening and loving Hashem, and they're experiencing that love and they're experiencing that understanding, that deep comprehension of godliness, and that means that they're wrapped in spiritual pleasure 24/7. That person is enjoying themselves, their spiritual self, which is good. But on the other hand, what they're having is the light of Hashem, because understanding and feeling all this is light. If that person would disconnect and stop doing that, and then do something like chopping wood and cooking soup to give somebody food, which is the other end of the spectrum, doing something completely technical and physical, I'm giving up that identity of mine. I'm not being who I really would love to be, but at the same time, I'm connecting to the essence of Hashem, because this is His will. In a certain sense, that's what every shliach is doing. They would love to be like anybody else, near the Rebbe, in a community. The children go to the yeshiva with hundreds of children around them that are learning and davening and doing mitzvahs like themselves and being in that kind of environment. But because they know this is what Hashem wants of them, so they're giving all that up, and this is what they're doing. So I'm saying, imagine a tzaddik that this is his life. It's very hard for us to picture, but the little bit of pleasure that we ever have from learning something, feeling something, just try to imagine, multiply that by 500 million, billion, trillion times pleasure. And then to let go of that, and you're so attached to it, and let go of it and do something which is almost completely impleasurable. It's just an act, a physical act. So you're giving up your identity for Hashem. The other way, I'm not giving up my identity. I'm actually enjoying everything. I'm immersed in all this great pleasure, but at the same time, it's not the essence of Hashem, it's the light of Hashem. So how are we doing? Where are we? Essence, light, pleasure.
I feel I need to, one day I will not, I will need to give up on this pleasure of learning.
That's what it is. I mean, hopefully when Mashiach comes, we'll have everything together. We'll be both. We'll be in this physical world and have all the spiritual pleasure. That's what it says about Mashiach. Mashiach is going to be a time we'll have both. We'll be in the physical world down here, and at the same time, the light that's up there will be shining here. That merging, that combination is impossible now before Mashiach comes. That's going to be the miracle of Mashiach. So don't worry, you're not going to be in trouble. Okay?
Wait, Rabbi, so
yes.
The difference is, okay, so we're talking about when we do a mitzvah, going to the class, we're like losing our identity. Because
In a certain way, yeah.
In a certain way. Also, if we like evaporate or like expire into the air, that's also losing our identity. But the advantage of being here is because of the Mishnah that you said that it's worth it, like one moment here.
Right.
More than all that.
Right. Why? Because through that moment, I'm connecting to the essence. One of the most powerful statements about this is made by the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov said that Malach Mechol, the angels, there are many angels up there. It says that there are infinite angels. And angels, each one is on a different level than the other. However, there are certain angels that are considered the highest. They're the source of all other angels. And one of them is Malach Mechol. His name is actually found in Tanakh. The angel Michael, which is considered the angel in charge of the Jewish people. He's our advocate. He's our lawyer in Shamayim, Machol. He's the angel of Chesed. You also know the name Gabriel. He's the angel of Gebura. So this angel Machol, the Baal Shem Tov said, would be ready to give up everything that he's accumulated spiritually for one string of tzitzah of a yid. Let's think of what that means. An angel is constantly serving Hashem. And we just finished saying the way he serves Hashem is infinitely greater than a human being. And he's serving Hashem since the beginning of creation. One day less. He was created on Monday. Okay, one day less. So let's say by now he's been serving Hashem for 5,782 years, climbing higher and higher and higher in the spiritual ladder. And he would come over to Yid and say, please, I'm ready to exchange with you. I'll give you everything I've accumulated. Give me one string from your tzitzis. Why? Because it's what?
One string isn't even a mitzvah.
That's what it says. I have to think about that. I don't know how that works. But the point is, the mitzvah is the essence of Hashem. And what he has is the light of Hashem. And the essence, the light compared to the essence, like finite compared to infinite, which is infinitely greater. And therefore, no matter how much you accumulate, even another 5,782 years, it still doesn't compare to one time of doing a mitzvah. You know, one of the things that a lot of people had issues with today, life has changed. But when the Rebbe first came out with Mivtzoyim, a lot of people had, issues with it. What's the point stopping someone in the street, putting on tefillin? He's not changing his life. He's not going to daven every day. Even now, all he did was put on tefillin. So what's the point? And there's many answers to this question. Most people think, the point is once he puts on tefillin, he'll do other things. But what if I knew for sure he'd never ever do anything else, just one time tefillin? Based on what we just now said, one time tefillin connects him to the essence of Hashem. Malach Machal would want to exchange with this guy for his one time tefillin. And therefore, what he gains from that is infinite. Of course, everyday tefillin is more what Hashem wants. Davening is more what Hashem wants. But if a woman lights candles one time and a man puts on tefillin one time and does one mitzvah one time, that's already this infinite connection to the essence of Hashem. So let's try to get this straight again. Again, every person has their identity. For example, a person who's, let's say, a mathematician, and this is his life. That's his identity, studying math and discovering new things in math and doing research in math and coming up with new ideas in math. His life is math. There are people that their life is music. They love music and they're creating music and they're into music. They eat music, they drink music, they live music. I once heard from an artist many, many years ago when I was in Australia. There was an artist there. And he said to me, my art teacher told me, this is the way you do art. For example, you want to make a picture of a bamboo field. What do? You take a suitcase, pack your suitcase, and you travel to a bamboo field. And then you settle in the bamboo field, and you eat breakfast in the bamboo field, you eat lunch in the bamboo field, you eat supper in the bamboo field. You go for walks in the bamboo field. You go to sleep in the bamboo field. And you're eating bamboo and you're dreaming bamboo and you're walking bamboo. And you do this for a year until you turn into a bamboo field. And then you can start drawing. There's a lot in what he said. And I showed him where there's a mind of the Friedrich Rebbe about art that explains the same thing. But the point is that people who are really into art, this is their life, that's their identity, art. They can almost not live without art. There was a famous artist in Israel, unfortunately he passed away not long ago. His name was Baruch Nachshon. He lived in Hebron. And he merited to have a special relationship with the Rebbe. The Rebbe did things for him that never did. He actually asked him to bring his art here and make an exhibit. And the Rebbe went to see all his pieces of art and made comments about different things. But he once told the Rebbe, he came here often, told the Rebbe that when he comes to New York, he doesn't know why he feels depressed. So the Rebbe asked him, when you're here, do you do any art work? He says, no, he's traveling, he's doing other things. The Rebbe said, that's why you feel depressed. When you're here, you should do your artwork. In other words, a person who creates art, this is his life and this is identity, that if he's not creating art, he gets depressed. He has to express that. And the same thing with people, music, that's their identity. People who are into math, and they're into it because they love this field. That's their passion. That's their identity. They live with that. So a person who is a spiritual person, a godly person, their identity is Torah, mitzvahs, godliness, spirituality. That's their pleasure in life, and that's what they love to do. Nothing else matters to them. To give that up means giving up their identity. And why are you giving it up? Because that's what Hashem wants. So here's the point. I give up my identity, but I'm connecting to the essence. The other way, I'm not giving up my identity because I'm enjoying what I am. This is my identity, godly light, but I'm not connecting to the essence.
So connect to what you love or no?
Right?
No. I asked to connect to what you love or no.
Oh, you're asking which one a person should do? So of course, the way Hashem set up Torah mitzvahs, we have to do both. There's a time that we're supposed to be learning and davening and immerse ourselves in spirituality. And there are times we have to stop, close the sefer, and go ahead and do the physical, technical, actual mitzvahs that have to be done. So if a person would say, I'm in the middle of learning something, and this is so amazing, and it's such pleasure, I don't want to stop and go do Lulav and Esther. All I'm doing is shaking a Lulav and Esther, but here I'm really enjoying it. We know on a smaller scale, there's the same idea. Stop what you're doing, and you have to do the mitzvah of Lulav and Esther. Stop what you're doing and give somebody tzedakah. This is similar to the story with the Alter Rebbe. It's a little bit different because it's more about Ahavas Yisrael, but it's a similar idea. The famous story, the Alter Rebbe lived in a house together with the Mittel Rebbe. In other words, his son, the Mittel Rebbe, lived on a lower floor. The Alter Rebbe lived on a higher floor. The Mittel Rebbe was already married, and he had a child, and the baby fell out of the crib and was crying. The Mittel Rebbe was so immersed in his learning that he didn't hear. Not that he didn't care, he didn't hear. He didn't hear the baby crying. The Alter Rebbe was 2 flights up. I'm sure he also wasn't sitting and twiddling his thumbs. And the Alter Rebbe heard the baby crying and he came down. And he told the Mittel Rebbe later that no matter where you are spiritually, you should hear the baby crying. In other words, your feeling for a child's cry should be so much connected to your essence that even if you're in the deepest places, you should be able to be tuned into it, hear it, and not be distracted from it. So it's a little bit different because that's talking more about the care for a child, obviously so, but it means that when a person is so immersed, nothing else matters. And that's what they love. That's where they are. That's their identity. And then I have to stop doing that and take care of a baby and try to calm him down. Can you imagine what kind of goals that is? That's why the fathers don't help so much. But anyway, this is what it means. So that's what the Maimon is saying, that the person who has this love, where he connects to the essence, is giving up his identity, but he's connecting to the essence. The person who doesn't go that far is not giving up his identity, but all he has is the light, not the essence.
Wow.
And then we have to find different scenarios in our practical life, like the examples I gave you, how this would play out. Whether it means a person is going to push off davening mincha because they're in the middle of learning something, enjoying something, and they just can't let go. Or it's a person that can't let go and go help another Jew because they're enjoying what they're doing spiritually. Or all these examples, this is the same idea, just in a different arrangement. But the idea, the principle is the same principle. It's giving up me for Hashem to connect to Hashem's essence. Let's look at the words inside again. I know this is not easy, but let's get some idea. Let's start again at the bottom of page 247. This love, he says, what I want is not the Giluyim of Gan Eden, which means not just Gan Eden, all the higher spiritual worlds. What I want is Atzmas Ein Sof, the essence of Hashem. Even though in Gan Eden, he will be able to maintain his identity. He'll be experiencing deep understanding and deep pleasure of godliness. Like it says in Gan Eden, the souls, they are basking in the pleasure of Hashem's radiance. But if he would connect to the essence of Hashem, this will make him lose his identity. Nevertheless, what does he want? He wants the essence, because Gan Eden is only ha'or l'bad. It's just radiance of Hashem. It's the light of Hashem. It's the manifestation of Hashem, which is ein hareich, which is incomparable to the essence of Hashem. So he chooses the primary thing, not the secondary thing. And the primary thing is Hashem's essence, not his light. The other person chooses the light over the essence because that will give, by doing that, I can maintain my identity. Again, both are tzaddikim and both are on a high level because we're saying his identity is Hashem, so it's also a high spiritual level. But in a very subtle way, in a very fine way, this one has the essence and this one is more about what I'm going to gain for myself. I'll hold on to my identity. Is it somewhat clear or still questions? You got it a little bit? Okay. If anybody in this room could come up and would come up with another example based on what you say, I would really appreciate. I'm giving you 3 days now. Friday, Shabbos, Sunday, Monday morning. Come back with an example. Share something. You use your creative mind. Don't get lost. Remember to eat, make kiddush on Shabbos, and do the mitzvahs. Don't get lost in the light. But try to think of an example of something you can apply to practical life. What would be an example of this? Because by giving more examples, it becomes more understood.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
So when we're doing mitzvah, like in terms of positive commandment, like connecting to Hashem, what about the prohibitions, like we're not doing anything, but like we're connecting to Hashem, doing positive, but when we're keeping, not doing an avera.
So the truth is, I mean, it needs more time to explain, but actually in Chassidus, it explains that on the surface, it appears when you don't do an Avera, it's just being passive. I'm not doing anything wrong. But in truth, it's not only being passive, when you're not doing Avera, you're allowing a light that's even higher than mitzvahs to descend upon you. But in order to understand that, we need more time. To be continued. Happy Shabbos, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi. Good Shabbos.
You're welcome. Good Shabbos to you.
I'm joining you from
Yes.
from Montreal.
Montreal. Who are you? Who?
Sarah Nachmias.